Hey, welcome into the Deuce and Mo podcast. Recording this on a Monday night as the Kings wrapped up their road trip against the Utah Jazz. Got off to an ugly start, down by as many as 25 points, but Fox said, we're not going away lightly. The Kings end up taking their first lead late in the game. It was tied up. The Kings had their chances, but the Utah Jazz making plays down the stretch, playing shorthanded, and they beat the Kings tonight 128-120. The Kings head back to Sacramento, finishing a 4-game road trip at 3-1, and coming up tomorrow night, a showdown with the well-rested Boston Celtics. I'm Deuce Mason. That's Morgan Reagan. How you doing, Mo?
I'm pretty good. And I'm not how I thought I would be after this loss.
Wow.
And I say that, let's just say if the game continued the way it started, I would feel a different way. But love seeing a good comeback. They rallied back. A shorthanded Jazz team. So there's still a lot of that, I'm disappointed. But overall, you got to look at this team, how many games they've been playing, 3-1 road trip.
I told you after the Kings' last win in Washington, I was a little worried about this game.
Yeah.
But then today you find out Markkanen was going to be out, Clarkson and Sexton out. I'm going, okay, it's the end of the road trip, but the Kings should take care of business. They came out flat tonight, and that's probably the biggest disappointment is how you come out. One, defensively, pretty much most of the night, especially in that first quarter, I felt like even late in the game, just too many defensive breakdowns. And then offensively, the zone was a theme tonight. Utah played that zone a lot. And that impact on the Kings in that first quarter. Kings held to a season-low 19 points in that first quarter, down 40-19 after one. So, it was an awful start for a Kings team that's trying to end the road trip the right way.
Yeah, and I think, the way that they came out flat, the Utah Jazz came out with a different type of energy.
Fast.
Yeah.
Fast. The pace was so fast to start this game.
Yeah, and I mean they were playing efficient within the pace that they were playing. Just really came out strong. Kind of caught the Kings off guard. I think you could say.
Yeah.
But I mean the reason why I'm not trying to give them all the credit. The Kings also weren't making their shots and everything, but at the same time, that had a lot to do with how the Jazz were coming out, playing physical, playing intense.
The Kings were settling for threes. They were not getting paint touches, creating threes.
Well, and they weren't getting the paint touches because of the defense that the Jazz were playing, whether it was in the zone, whether it was just because of their length, obviously, Kessler in the middle. But again, it sucks when you see the Kings not being able to execute against a bigger team, a longer team. And that's what was happening there early on. Yeah,
you mentioned it's not just Walker Kessler with the length. Obviously, he's a big dude. He impacted the game in a major way for the Utah Jazz. Dude, what a steal. Danny Ainge. I mean,
every
come
time.
on, man. I just watched that guy and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He ends up with 5 blocks. But, Agbaji, who they started tonight, he was outstanding.
Yeah.
He's got good size. Even THT, I know he didn't have his typical night he's been playing lately. His last 5 games, he's been tremendous, but he only played just under 21 minutes tonight. They started Ham with Olynyk. They have some good size out there, and it totally bugged the Kings, especially with what they were throwing at him early.
Yeah, Agbaji, 6'5", only 22
and he's
years
strong,
old. He's strong as hell, and the way that he would go to the basket on the offensive end, it's like he didn't care what was in front of him. He just did. He played fantastic tonight. And you're going to have those nights when there's another player that's just outstanding and there's no way of slowing them down. We've seen this happen before with the Kings. And especially when it's like a player you wouldn't really expect. But I just did not like the way that the Kings came out. I wanted to also use the excuse a little bit of the altitude. I just wanted to be like, no. And when I say that, I'm like, altitude, last game of the road trip, but mostly mentally coming out flat.
Yeah.
I'm just tying in everything. I'm not giving, that's why they lost.
Yeah, well, I felt like that was something that got mentioned a lot tonight on the broadcast too. And I'm just like, For me, I don't care. Like these Kings players are well conditioned. We've been talking about how
Yeah.
well conditioned they are. They practice hard. They get after. I'm not denying that maybe they were tired after the road trip. I don't necessarily think it was the altitude. I mean, they still were able to put up 120 points tonight. Okay, you could tell me they're tired, but they got it going.
Yeah,
right.
they pushed through.
It's not like they rolled over. Going back to that first quarter, Morgan, I'm curious to get your perspective because it obviously was a terrible start. I mean, it's 38-16 with a minute 43 to go. Sabonis during the timeout was getting after guys. He was pissed off. I mean, he was yelling pretty good, trying to motivate his team, whatever he's trying to do. But at the minute 33 mark, we see a lineup that we have never seen in the history of the Sacramento Kings.
What was it?
It was 38-16 when it's Fox, Dellavedova, Keon Ellis, Trey Lyles, and Chimezie Metu. Now, was this Mike Brown so irritated by the start that he was just like, throwing something at the wall? Like, you know what? If you're not going to defend Davion or Monk or TD, Delly, get your ass in there.
Yep.
Keon Ellis, get your ass in there. It was just a weird lineup to me because I felt like it was just a desperate move. It was like, hey, can I get something? I'm going, where's the spacing around De'Aaron Fox?
Well, that's what it was, dude.
I mean, you've got Metu, Delly. Ellis has shot the ball well from three in the G League, but
made
still
that
not,
first corner three.
not a proven three-point shooter, not a shooter that anyone on the floor is really going to respect in the Utah Jazz. And I just thought, like, that wasn't – Delly's not getting you stops out there.
Right.
It's just not happening. And this is not a pile-on Delly thing because you're not going to act like the guy who played literally 3 minutes tonight cost the Kings anything.
No.
But it was also – I think Delly is to the point that you don't need to play him. We could talk about his leadership and what he said to Terrence Davis before that Wizards game and how impactful that was for TD. But in terms of going out there and contributing, I just don't think he has it. He took a really bad three during the stretch too. I just thought that lineup was so curious. I'm like, we're this desperate? No, call a timeout, get after your guys, and get them back in there. We don't need to be doing this.
I get it. I get what you're saying, Deuce. But I think at the same time too, like I think he felt like he called a timeout. He got after his guys and shit still wasn't sticking to the wall, right? Yeah. So he was like, screw everyone. I'm going with this lineup. Who wants to work hard for me? Who wants to get... And sometimes it's not even about working hard. It's just about pushing through mentally and finding a way to get past whatever's in your way, right? And you just couldn't see these guys in that... It didn't matter if it was the starting group, the second unit. You couldn't see them get past things. So... Who went in? Keon Ellis and Delly at the end of that quarter.
Yeah, I was just disappointed by the start. So you go down at the end of one, 40-18. And you're wondering, okay, are the Kings just going to just absolutely roll over here? Like what's the response going to be from the Sacramento Kings? And in the second quarter, the Jazz go back in the zone. It was clearly causing problems for Sacramento. But then De'Aaron Fox, I thought, got aggressive. He ends up going, I think, on an 11-0 run by himself. Finishes with 14 points, hitting step back threes. He played with an edge, and that's where I credit Fox tonight. I thought Fox was like, you know what? We're playing like shit to start this game. We're not going to roll over here. I don't care. I love that they didn't do the classic thing that some teams do where they get down by 25 points, final game of road trip, they play the next night against a good team and go, we don't have it tonight.
Yeah.
The Kings made this a game. And that's where what I love about this team is they continue to fight. They had a huge lapse in that first quarter. They responded in that second quarter to cut the gap big time, and Fox was tremendous.
Yeah. And when he came out and was playing like that, I know it's pretty obvious to say, oh, that's contagious. Like, you need someone to click and get things going. And we've seen that happen with energy guys coming off the bench. We've seen that with players that just needed to step up. But no, it was your leader. It was one of your star players that stepped up quickly and was like, okay, I'm taking this one. I'm doing this one. And because he's grown to be so efficient with his shooting, with his ability to get into the paint and make the right decision, he did a fantastic job of taking over in that second quarter. And then it started bleeding into the rest of the game.
So at the end of the second quarter, it was 68-52 Utah. Sacramento obviously struggled in that first half, 37% shooting. But But HB and Fox combined for 26 points in that second quarter. 26 of the Kings' 33 points on 8 of 9 shooting. So at halftime, in a weird way, I felt like pretty good because I'm like, this was a really ugly start. They're back in this game.
Yeah.
If they can just kind of come out in this third quarter, Utah should go down a little bit here, and Sacramento's offense will get them back in the game. And that's what happened in the third quarter. Murray and Fox took over.
Oh.
They combined for 33 points in the quarter. Keegan had 17 in the third.
Dude, Keegan Murray, not only his shot, obviously he was knocking down so many, 6 of 14 from deep, but there was this one play where, man, I don't know why I don't remember who was passing it to him. He was already on the run to the basket, like to go to toward the rim. Someone passing the ball, kind of led him with the ball, and he was just going full force and had an open lane layup, right? And I just love the way that he was aggressively turning corners, going off screens, coming around for the ball to set up his feet quick, boom, get the right shot off. Like everything just looked so much stronger than usual from Keegan Murray.
And then knocking down some threes obviously helped too. Keegan ends up on the night scoring 22 points. He had 6 rebounds. He was 8 of 16 overall, but hit 6 of 14 from 3-point land in the game.
Yeah.
So that was a good sign for sure.
Yeah, and I said that in the beginning too when I was talking about him, and I was just like, I think when he was making those threes, it wasn't just how open he was, it was how he was making them. Like he was so, his form, his shooting, his technique, like everything just looked completely in rhythm together.
11 threes in the last 2 games for Keegan. So maybe he is going to catch that rookie record.
He's
moving up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that earlier, and we were saying, okay, he's got to hit like maybe 6 tonight. And we're like, well, he had 5 the other night. Why can't he?
I felt like, too, when you saw the zone, that the Kings did handle the zone better in that third quarter.
Yeah.
The starters did it well, right? Like they got into it fat. The zone, I can understand why it presents challenges for teams. We've talked about this on Night Chat before. More and more teams are doing this, right? We saw a 1-3-1 tonight from the Utah Jazz, and it presents challenges for sure. But the one thing you can't do is just pass around the perimeter and not attack. Like someone's got to attack. You got to get in the paint. You got to cut. You got to move the ball. And there were too many times in the first half they weren't doing it. It was much better in that second half, especially to start the third, because what do you know? The Kings got some stops and they were able to push the pace.
Yeah. Yes. And as I get to that really quick, along the zone, along the perimeter, what they were even doing at times, they would attack like a little spot.
Mm-hmm.
And get the defense to barely collapse and move. There was like no substance to what they were trying to do. They thought that one dribble, getting a defender to take one step in, was going to be enough to get a bounce pass. That's not leaving your next guy open enough. And you're exactly right, Deuce. There were, I believe, 0 fast break points in that first half.
Yeah, only the second time that's happened this season, according to Will Z.
So then, oh, nice. And so then look at what they were doing in that second half. Deflections. They were getting steal. I mean, just a lot more activity happening on the defensive end that was leading to fast breaks, that was leading to other baskets, other opportunities.
Yeah, Sabonis had a couple of deflections. I thought Keegan had some nice defensive moments too tonight that were key. The other fun play in that third quarter was when Fox had the inbound and Walker Kessler had his back to him.
Yep.
Fox throws it off his ass, grabs it, scores it.
So he made it look so easy. That was beautiful. He knew exactly how much room he had at the basket. No one else was sagging down. Just well done, smart move by De'Aaron. And he executed it perfectly.
Then Monk ends up tying the game at 85. Zone comes back in. I thought they started to attack it better. I mean, we go to the third quarter. We go to the fourth quarter, tied up at 95. Sacramento outscored them 43-27 in that third quarter. So obviously the offense was able to give them more. They did better defensively, holding the Jazz under 30 points. And you're like, okay, the game's reset here. You got a game here.
Yeah.
Fourth quarter comes. And it was more of a struggle for Sacramento. I thought tonight the Kings offense wasn't great, but somehow still puts up 120. And it just shows you how lethal this offense could be. 120 points. They shoot 42%, but knocked down 19 3-pointers in the game. They only had 6 turnovers tonight. which is great. Imagine
That's
if they
awesome.
had more, that would
Yeah.
have been disastrous. But
Ugly.
they gave up 13 points off those turnovers. So I thought,
Transition defense ugly.
that's what I was gonna say. Transition defense is really bad. I mean, and I thought Monk and HB got exposed a lot defensively tonight. I mean, it just
They had
getting
their
beat,
moments.
just getting beat.
Yeah.
Monk, Chris Dunn destroyed the Kings tonight.
Yeah.
And I love his story. Chris Dunn, who we called it one of his G League games last year, a guy who's dealt with so many injuries throughout his career. He's back in the NBA. Utah gives him a chance. He comes off the bench tonight, has a season high 18 points, 10 assists on 7 of 12. And he was just getting his stuff way too easy. He can't be beating guys off the dribble. I mean, he was just being more physical, and it wasn't pretty at all. And then Abaji, who I like a lot, he was getting stuff too easy.
Yeah, like getting into the paint too easy, was just doing I mean, but he was super active too. And I think when we talk about this Jazz squad, you know, you see what they've been able to do this season with their youth, with their rebuilding process, and they play their asses off.
Dude, they really, really play hard. And you go, man, you kind of like some of these guys that we have on the roster for sure. Walker Kessler, what a force he was tonight. You know, we haven't talked about Sabonis yet.
Yeah.
Sabonis, 11 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists on 4 of 11, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He was beyond frustrated late in the game with some of the contact he got. And last game, we noticed that it looked like he hurt his right hand at one point, right? So both hands hurt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was left hand. Yeah, he has both hands that would
Whatever
be hurt.
hand,
yes.
okay.
Yeah. So I was wondering if he was feeling it tonight, because he seemed very passive in this game. And I don't know if it was passive because Walker Kessler was down there.
Mm-hmm.
But
5 blocks.
He had 5 blocks, another game with 5 blocks. It's just tremendous. And he had a big one late on Sabonis. Then Sabonis came down, got really frustrated, and dunked it super hard to cut it to 3. But yeah, Kessler impacted the game, man. He is such a good rim protector. And for them to go from Gobert, overpaid, aging, you trade him for a buttload of picks, and you get Walker Kessler back in the deal, who's just better than him now. Yeah. What a pickup for them. But I thought Kessler did a great job tonight. And I don't know. I just thought Sabonis was either overthinking him a little bit. I just felt like he wasn't as aggressive.
So we talked about this the other day too, when we were like, teams should try to get in Sabonis's head more, because you most likely can't, because he's very, very strong mentally. But when you do, you really throw him off his game. And I think tonight wasn't one of the worst nights I've seen him, you know, thrown off his game mentally, but he was.
Olynyk can do that to people. Olynyk's a little secret dirty guy.
That, and like you said, with Kessler as well. I mean, it's just frustrating when you can't get yours. And I think in some ways he was like, okay, how can I create for others? When really it was like, shit, Sabonis, they need you to create. They need you to score. But at the same time, maybe he felt like he was going to be forcing it through arms and was going to be forcing something that wasn't there if he was creating. But I would have liked to see him create a little bit more for himself.
Try to get Kessler in the foul trouble. I mean, Walker Kessler tonight had 3 fouls. By the way, Olynyk, his final numbers, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 8 dimes on 6 of 12, dude.
His outside shot was just, I mean, when he was knocking those down.
Well, late on closeouts, too. Sacramento was so late on closeouts. They either close out too hard or they're way late.
That was it. There's so many little mental mistakes, the details tonight that were frustrating even later on, right? Obviously, early on, there was a lot of things that were frustrating, but the little things, getting back in defense, in just their transition D as a whole, and then even Malik Monk hitting or missing that technical foul. It wasn't a technical foul free throw. It was the Kelly Olynyk. Thank you.
Foul?
Yes, it was the take foul free throw, and he missed it late, and I'm just like, that doesn't happen much.
Yeah, Monk had a weird night.
Yeah.
Very bizarre night. He wasn't very efficient, but he had that one layup that I don't know how he finished it. I don't get how he did it at all. And then defensively, and it was tough because I thought I was talking to you a little bit before where I'm like, I was surprised they ended the game with Monk. And we should also know Kevin Huerter did not play tonight. We mentioned the Jazz being shorthanded. Kevin Huerter did not play tonight. Lyles did come back. He played 25 minutes, but wasn't really his night. I thought I was surprised that they finished with Monk down the stretch. I get it from the standpoint that that zone was at play, and I felt like they wanted to have another creator out there, someone who could attack the zone. And if you have Kessler Edwards, we've talked about this before with the Kings. Like Mike Brown's trying to have this balance of like, all right, we need offense, but we also need defense. We're struggling with the zone. Kessler Edwards is not going to really attack this zone probably the right way. We need to have Monk out there. Excuse me, but on the other end, I thought the Kings got hurt.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. I think they needed his playmaking ability, and his playmaking ability can work magic on his own, right? When you can just get to the open spot, attack the gap, find the man in the dunker spot, or make a great skip pass across the court. You can depend on Malik Monk to make those type of plays on the offensive end, and he still was doing things on that end of the floor, but it just, everyone wasn't together. Everyone wasn't capitalizing. I mean, the one guy that just really you wish could have done something all night long, De'Aaron Fox. Every time he got into the paint and someone just would lose him, and so then Walker Kessler would try to come up a little bit, but then wouldn't fully commit, and De'Aaron knew it every single time and was like, all right, this is my jumper. This is like my little midi. I got this right here. And it's almost impossible to do that all night.
Well, if you're going to struggle with size,
yeah,
you realize what tomorrow night is. A matchup with the Boston Celtics. Robert Williams returning after his absence. He's been out, 7-8 games for the Boston Celtics.
Al Horford?
Al Horford scheduled to play unless something changes on the injury report. Both teams, by the way, coming off losses to the Utah Jazz.
So annoying.
They have been off since Saturday. A couple other thoughts on this game real fast. De'Aaron Fox finishes with 37 points, 14 of 21 shooting. How about D Fox? 6 of 9 from 3.
Dude.
He has some nasty-ass step backs tonight. I text you at one point during the game. I'm like, he's that dude. He's that dude. Fox is a legit talent. I know it's like, hey, the Kings lose, so sometimes that stuff flies under the radar. No, Fox got them back in this game. He played his ass off.
Yep.
He helped make this a game in that second half where the Kings had a chance to win. And ultimately, they don't get stops. The size bugged them. It's a tough way to lose. I don't know. I mean, 4 games in 6 nights is not easy, but you also have another game tomorrow, which is 5 games in 7 nights. But 4 and 6 is tough. You're not going to win every game. I just thought once they got that lead in the fourth quarter, they can just steal this one. Just steal this one. It sucks that they lost, but overall, I'm not like panicking either.
No. I wanted the steal. Didn't get it. Loved how De'Aaron Fox played. Loved how Keegan Murray played tonight. I just thought it was fantastic from how he was being aggressive. And then you look at Sabonis' stat line, and it's almost a triple-double, and you just laugh that we're talking about it the way that we were talking about it. But truly, you could tell, like even with his 9 assists, that something was a little bit more passive with him, and he wasn't going to be the one that was going through Walker Kessler. Completely everything he did tonight, still great. It's just those moments when you're like, was there something missing from him? Yeah. And then Kessler Edwards, I just want to mention really quick because he was obviously in the starting lineup again, 19 minutes, only 6 points and 1 rebound, 2 assists. So, you didn't get the production you wanted from him, but I also think on the defensive end too, it was like Mike Brown was just getting frustrated and was like, okay, if I don't trust you right now, like I've only seen you for such a short amount of time, I'm not going with it. I'm just not going to deal.
Terrence Davis, 5 minutes in the whole game after what he did last game.
Right.
He was 0 for 4, took some bad shots. They didn't like him. They were settling. He's out. He doesn't play anymore. The bench let him down tonight.
Yeah.
You look at the bench play, Utah versus Sacramento tonight. Chris Dunn gives you 18 and 10. You had, is this right? Oh, man, Azubuike had 13 and 8 on 6 of 6 in 18 minutes, man. Those final numbers. I knew he had an impact, but man, when you look at that, you're damn. So that was tough. And then, Rudy Gay gives him 11. It wasn't efficient, but they got some scoring off the bench where the leading scorer for the Kings off the bench was Monk at 15. No one else really gave him much at all.
Yep.
So
tough one.